welcome, fans, to another frustrating, official-led, disappointing episode of the Assembly Call as your Indiana Hoosiers lose. I believe the final score was 79-73. I'm going to have to go back and check that. 80-73. I see that now. To the Wisconsin Badgers in double overtime. Indiana falls to 7-5 overall and 2-3 in the Big Ten in a place, the Kohl Center, where they have not had success for many, many years. Went into the game and battled for most of the game. Overcame a double-digit deficit in the first half, and was able to come back and fight and eventually take a 6-point lead. But just could not hang on against the Badgers late. Had two opportunities to end the game, had the last possession and did not come up with made shots and could have won the game. And then in the second overtime, Wisconsin hit some big shots from a guy who's hitting 27% on his career to put the game out of reach from your Indiana Hoosiers. Overall, obviously, when you have a loss in double overtime, there are things that could have won you the game. But there were some things like Anthony Leal's play, Jerome Hunter's play, the fight to come back from a 12-0 run and a real demoralizing run in the first half to fight and come back for the lead. I think there's some things that we'll talk about tonight that are really good going forward for your Indiana Hoosiers despite the loss. So I'm your host, the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with the president of the Ethan Happ Fan Club, Ryan Phillips, and we will break it down. Jerod Morris is also going to join us possibly tonight on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And let's start this show the way we start every show, and that is with our banner moment. And for me, the banner moment was in the second half when not only did Trayce Jackson-Davis take over in the post, but his teammates took over in getting him the ball in the post and then feeding off of Trayce Jackson-Davis in the post in what looked like actual offense. This team has struggled to play successfully, to make shots on the offensive end, and that stretch that got Indiana up to a 56-50 lead was simply a dominating performance offensively, which we have not seen. That needs to be more consistent. It needs to be throughout 40 minutes of games going forward in order to win at places like the Kohl Center. But it was really good to see. It was fun basketball to watch as the ball was moving, getting to the right people. When the right people were guarded, the secondary players were stepping up and making plays and hitting shots. And again, the defense all along, we'll talk about that too, was really stellar during that stretch. But that stretch in the second half has to be the banner moment for me because that's something we need, and that's something that put Indiana in position to win this game, and hopefully that's something we can build from. So our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their fourth season of sponsoring the Assembly Call. With winter here and hoodie weather officially now arrived, you need to make your way over to their website, homefieldapparel.com. They have something unique for everyone on your shopping list, especially IU fans, and all of their apparel is printed on the softest, warmest, most comfortable, most washable materials you'll find anywhere. Want a few suggestions? The last item I purchased was actually an Assembly Call t-shirt for Mrs. Tonsoni, and it's being shipped immediately. But I've also purchased a lot of other college gear because I collect college gear, and it's just very comfortable to wear. A Belmont Bruin t-shirt is also on the way from our friends at Home Field Apparel. And so it's not just IU gear. There are 90 different colleges and universities, and new ones are being added all the time. Their designs are so unique, interesting, and vintage that you may end up like me, as I just said, buying lots of shirts and hoodies from schools that you barely heard of just because the designs are really cool. And you can always save on your home field order by using the promo code Assembly20 at checkout. It will give you 20% off your entire order throughout the year. So go to homefieldapparel.com, load up on your shopping cart, and enter Assembly20 at checkout to get 20% off. That's homefieldapparel.com. Okay, now it's time to move the ball and find the open man and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. Ryan, just tough game for the Indiana Hoosiers. Bottom line is it wasn't a 20-point blowout like last December at the Kohl Center. Nonetheless, it's still disappointing to come out with your loss. Your rant on tonight's loss to Wisconsin.
Plenty of positives to address, and I will. But if I'm Archie Miller right now, I am lighting into the officials in the post-game press conference, and I'm taking the fine. I'm swallowing the fine. I don't care what it is. This was not an even evenly officiated game. And we've seen it at the Kohl Center before repeatedly. I have ranted on this, I feel like 8 times on this show, and we've been doing it for 10 years. Like it's mind-boggling to me. Final stats here. Indiana shot 8 free throws. Wisconsin shot 20. Indiana had 19 fouls. Wisconsin had 14. Wisconsin was never in the bonus in this game. Until double overtime, they didn't get into the bonus, and that carries over from the second half. In the second half, Indiana started out in the fouls, had 10 when Wisconsin had 4. Now, here's the thing: is I know you get these people saying things like, "Oh, well, no, they're just a really good team. They don't foul." Everybody fouls, and everybody fouls about the same amount. There should never be a foul disparity of more than like 3, unless there's a late game fouling to stop the clock. And there should never be a free throw disparity that's that massive unless one team is just playing out on the perimeter the entire time. Indiana does not play out on the perimeter, yet only shot 8 free throws. Trayce Jackson-Davis was driving all night. He only shot 5. And 2 of those, I think, 2 of those were late in the game when it was a contact foul that didn't even have anything to do with the shot. Al Durham was being aggressive. Rob Findessy was being aggressive. Jerome Hunter was being aggressive around the hoop. No foul calls, like just none all night. And I understand giving an advantage to a home team, and that happens in certain arenas, and it certainly happens in Assembly Call sometimes. But this was an evenly played game all the way through, and both teams were doing about the same amount of things, and the same type of things. There was a lot of play through the post, a lot of play through the paint. Yet somehow Wisconsin was able to take an advantage of all that. I mean, Anthony Leal in double overtime gets called for blocking out Matt Reavers on a clean block out. Reavers didn't even move. Leal was just positioned, and Reavers jumped to go for a rebound, and they called a foul on Leal, who had good position on him. It is absolutely asinine that you have a team playing really hard, and you're not rewarding them for hard, tough play, but you're rewarding the other team who's playing hard and tough. Like whatever it is in that building, I don't know what it is. I don't know if they are piping something into the officials' locker room there or what, or the pregame spread is just so great that the officials feel like they have to reward Wisconsin. It's ridiculous, and it happens every time we go there. And this game, Indiana deserved to win this game. I will say that especially in the second half, they outplayed Wisconsin, and consistently when they had runs or they had any momentum, there would be a horrible foul call to put Wisconsin at the free throw line or change the momentum of the game. It was ridiculous. It was criminal, and it's not fair. That's the thing. It's not fair. And I don't give you, as a fan, I don't care if it's, it's not fair to me. It's not fair. It's not fair to those kids who were shorthanded and played 50 minutes tonight and went out there and left it all on the floor and played as well as they can possibly play. And they did not get rewarded for that because guys wearing stripes decided to even this up and make it easier for Wisconsin. That is crap. And it cannot, and you guys are very lucky I'm not swearing right now. It's crap, and it's not fair to those kids who brought everything they had to the game and got screwed out of a victory. And I wouldn't be mad about this if it was a one-time thing, because that happens sometimes. But it's every time we go there, this same thing happens. And the Big Ten needs to look into it, because we've done studies on this before where we look back and look at the foul disparities, and it's always insanely wide for Wisconsin. It's just like playing Duke. It's ridiculous, and it's something about their reputation where they don't foul. Everybody fouls, and they do it the same amount, and that narrative is ridiculous. So that's my rant. I'm done talking about the officials, but Archie should light them the hell up and take the fine and set up a GoFundMe, and we'll all pay it for him.
I couldn't agree more. And where I look at, I know there's some talk in the chat about don't blame the officials, but because there was plenty of times for Indiana to win the game. But when Indiana's being physical in the post and chucking cutters and getting calls, and then our post players go in and get bodied just the same as Indiana was bodying someone, when it's not called the same way on both ends. If it was allowed to be played physical on our end, but we weren't allowed to chuck their defenders, they were allowed to chuck our post players. That's when, as a coach, it gets really frustrating that it's not the same type of call. And then late in the shot clock, a little hands, and Reavers goes for a one-on-one because he was pulling up from outside. A couple of those jumpers that Trayce made, that Findessy was there. I'm not sure there was contact or not, but those are soft. Our guys are getting killed and not calling anything. That's when it really
Trayce Jackson-Davis, the last play of the game, Trayce Jackson-Davis got bodied when he got the ball, and then he got hammered on the shoulder when he went up to finish it. Now, I know late game, maybe you don't call that, But that happened all game.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerome Hunter went up for a layup. It got absolutely hammered in double overtime. No call. Trayce Jackson-Davis spun and moved into the lane, went up. Two guys stepped up. Both of them hit him, and he missed the layup, and they didn't call it. Now, it's one thing if like you're allowing some contact and a guy makes the layup, but as soon as he misses that, call the foul because it clearly affected his shot. And if it affects the shot, it affects the game. When you're calling Reaver's repost and he gets the ball cleanly and you're calling a foul because somebody is on his back or bumping him a little, and then you don't call, and he still got the ball. You know, it wasn't like somebody pushed him away and stole the ball. And then you're not calling when a guy has a layup, gets bumped in midair and misses. I mean, it makes no sense. And there was the other one that drove me nuts was I think it was Leal at the top of the key threw a post entry to Hunter, and the dude fell down and tripped him with his leg. It wasn't on purpose, but their legs got tangled up because Wisconsin's guy fell down trying to make a move on Hunter. His legs got tangled up and pulled Hunter down, and the ball just sails out of bounds. It's like, no, that's a foul, because if he hadn't kicked him with his legs, he catches that for a layup. Like, it's just dumb crap like that. Oh, I'm catching myself. It's dumb crap like that. That's just not, it's not an equitable game at that point. Like, why are we even playing? It's not a fairly officiated game. And the Big Ten has allowed this to go on for years. So I blame the Big Ten. I don't blame Wisconsin for taking advantage of it. If that was happening to me, I would gladly take advantage of it. And guess what? Wisconsin made shots at the end. Indiana was clearly gassed in the second overtime and not running offense that well. I mean, those guys have been on the floor forever. They're shorthanded. The longer it went on, the worse Indiana was going to play because they were exhausted. And I get that. So credit to Wisconsin for taking advantage of it and winning in overtime. That's a really good team. But Indiana deserved better than it got tonight. There was no questioning that.
Couldn't agree more. And joining us tonight, Jerod Morris has an opportunity to join us, and it's weird being the host and having him in. Jerod, your thoughts on Indiana's loss in double overtime to Wisconsin?
Boy, I get to follow that, huh?
Yeah, good luck.
You know, look, Ryan, I agree with you that the officiating was really bad tonight. That was obvious
Atrocious.
Watching the game. And yet, I can't help but think that even with that, this was a massive missed opportunity for Indiana.
Of course. So,
and
Jerod,
even with
I'm jumping in
the
real quick.
officiating. No, you're not jumping in. I'm talking now. You took enough time blaming the officials. Now we need to talk about what Indiana did wrong. Because bake all the official stuff in, and Indiana still should have won this game. And the reason why they didn't was late game execution, which we've seen be an issue, especially at the end of the first overtime. But, to me, coming into this game, the key to this game was going to be the guard play. Could Rob and Al battle Trayce and Davison to at least a draw, right? To at least a draw. If they could outscore them, great. Battle them to at least a draw. And you know what? I mean, Al and Rob had their moments tonight. Al scored 15 points. Rob had 10. Al had 5 assists. Rob had 6. Like, they did some good things, but it just wasn't good enough to beat the veteran guards of Wisconsin. The shots that Trayce made, Davison only had, 9 points. A lot of it came from Trayce. But, for Indiana to be able to win games like this, yeah, you'd like to get a fair shake from the officials. But even more important than that, your guards have to be able to make more plays at the end. You can't have a play at the end of overtime where you're tied and you don't even get a shot off. And you can blame the design of the play for that. You can blame both Al and Rob for the decisions that they made. They've got to be better there, And the thing is, they were better tonight in a lot of ways than we've seen them. This felt like the Florida State game in some ways where they were attacking. They were doing so many of the things that you want to see them do, and it just wasn't quite good enough. So, I fully take everything that you say about the officiating into account, but there are still moments in clutch situations where they've got to execute, and we just didn't, or Jerome Hunter takes a quick shot when you've got to get the ball inside. Some of those things, and you can blame being tired, blame a lot of different things out there, but that was the difference is, in really key situations, Wisconsin got better shots than Indiana did. And if we're going to actually win this, a game like this, we're probably not going to get the calls at the Kohl Center. We're just going to have to beat them anyway. And tonight was such a big opportunity to do it and bake everything else in. I just can't help but be so disappointed about our inability to seize the moment and grab it. And again, we'll talk about the positives because there were. I don't want to be all negative here. But at the end of the day, it's still a double overtime loss in a season where we've got to pick one up on the road that we're not supposed to get because we lost the Northwestern one. And god dang, this one was right there. And I just... there were some unforced errors that didn't need to happen, that for this program to take the next step have to stop happening.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, Jerod. I'm stepping in. I'm sorry, Coach, but
That's fine.
I 100% agree with you. They didn't take advantage of the opportunities they had when they had them. I 100% agree. The play at the end of overtime, whether that was the way it was drawn up or whether Rob just ran the wrong way and crowded Al Durham, and Al Durham goes behind the back for no reason, or Jerome Hunter on that reversal, he got a wide open shot, but Jerome, sometimes you got to wait for your guy who's flashing in the post to get open. Of course, there were missed opportunities. A couple of those drives that Trayce had, they could have switched a little earlier and gotten a guard on him instead of having Trayce Jackson-Davis in an impossible situation, having to guard him from getting a layup, but also be out there to cover him so he doesn't hit a three because it's a 2-point game, and he can't give up a three there. I mean, there's plenty of opportunities to win this game. I do not disagree with you, and that's why I also said credit Wisconsin. Trayce was amazing when he had to be, and he made the shots. And then they hit a couple threes in overtime, and they were more well-rested, and they were, all those things. Totally agree with you that there were missed opportunities here, and we will get into those. What I would say, though, is that for the entire first half, Indiana pretty much is playing without Race Thompson, who they needed to guard their two bigs because of two really bad foul calls at the beginning of the game. I'm saying it changes the complexion of the game. Now, Indiana still has to take advantage when it has opportunities. My only reason for bringing the fouls up first is because it changes the complexion of the game, and it puts one team at a massive disadvantage while the other team gets to have the easy trips to the line and gets to have this, that, and the other thing. So now, again, let me finish because I let you finish because you were about to jump in.
Yeah, but I didn't. I'm letting you finish.
Good job. All of that said, yes, Indiana has to finish better there. And I think they actually, it was funny because there were some times late in the second half where I figured, Wisconsin's coming back. This is where we stop scoring. And we did answer. Al had a great finish at the line. Trayce had a great finish. So they were, and he had that one pass to Hunter for a dunk. I mean, they actually were finishing, but then they had the one late play at the end of regulation, which again, I've seen national people. Rob Doster said Trayce Jackson-Davis was fouled. He was fouled. It's hard to make that shot when you get fouled, especially with your left hand on the left side facing that backboard. That said, it's still an opportunity for Trayce to make that shot. And you know what? Big time players need to make shots. Trayce made shots when he had the chance. I think that. So I agree. There were opportunities missed, and there were plays where guys made the wrong decision, and I agree with that and think that needs to be cleaned up. There's no. It's not like excusing that. I'm just saying that also they're already shorthanded, and they were even more shorthanded by people who shouldn't be causing them to be shorthanded.
I guess the main thing, I just want to make sure that we kind of set the context of this game right, because it is really easy to be excited about the way that they played and there are reasons to be excited about the way that they played. But, a lot of us didn't expect Indiana to really be in this game. And I credit the guys for that. I thought our mentality was great. I thought they fought. I thought they stayed together. They took punches and they kept coming back. But the reality is this is also year 4, and we shouldn't just be hoping to be in these games. This was the year when we were supposed to start winning them. And that's the disappointing part for me, is seeing some of those mistakes again at the end, again, even acknowledging all the positives, but that stuff's got to get cleaned up. So,
no, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly, I agree.
The issue to me is, can the guards clean it up to the point to where you win games like this? And that goes back to year 4, your comment on year 4, and that's all well and understood. But, Wisconsin's guards were better than IU's guards down the stretch, and IU guards played well tonight in the second half. Yeah. I thought they really struggled.
For themselves, they did.
They really struggled early.
And think about it, like,
we can't expect them. We can't expect, and they're missing, and we were missing, a really valuable player. And you can control games like this. Indiana should have won this game, and they should have won this game despite the officials. They had shots at the end. They have a jump ball with 7.7 seconds to go. Their play is to get a jump ball. That's just not good. And I know everyone's saying that the coach didn't design something. Well, he probably didn't design that one right. But there were times when both players and coaches came out of timeouts and got things done. We micro-analyzed that one possession. Sometimes
the execution at the end of regulation was pretty good.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't have a problem with the way Archie coached this game.
It just went. It just missed. There's an issue in the first half with trying to sub. Is he subbing because he wants to sub, or is he subbing because, there's a narrative out there that he needs to sub, right? And he subbed and he put the wrong group. He did. Needs to get guys rest, and that shows by the fatigue. But he had the wrong group of guys in and gave up a 12-0 run, because that's really where the game was lost, in my opinion. There's two places. The game was lost in that 12-0 run when you had a majority of the bottom end of your bench in the game at one time. And then the other one was with the 56-51 lead, Trayce Jackson-Davis got lazy with the little exchange pass, and Wall, the guy who hit the 2-3, stole it, went down and dunked, 56-53, and you come back and you post-feed. It might have been a foul, but it was another turnover. You had two turnovers at a time where you could extend the lead to 7, 8, 9 and put game pressure on Wisconsin. That's where Indiana needs to get better. But that is guard play, and I think – unfortunately, Jerod, we might have maximized what we could get out of these guards. I'm not sure they're Big Ten championship caliber guards. Great kids, love them, but it is who it is. The roster construction is more of an argument than really what these kids are doing and doing for Indiana. So
and look, I think that Al Durham and Rob Finney came up big a lot tonight and came and played very well. But yes, there are still mistakes. I mean, we're also grading them on a curve. It wasn't perfect. This is what we want from them every game, not on a stellar game. You want them to be able to extend what they do and build on it. And I will say, I thought Rob built on a good game. I thought Al built on some good things he did. I thought Jerome Hunter built on a very good game last time. We talked about it. Didn't show up in the box score last time, but he played well. And tonight, 12 points, 7 rebounds, and assists. He was played with 4 fouls for most of the second half and overtime, but he continues to get better and played very aggressively down low. It's like he was building confidence. We'll talk. I think Anthony Leal should be the next guy we talk about, because I think Anthony Leal was one of our best players on the floor tonight and stepped up he made Trey Galloway irrelevant tonight. Because he was so much better defensively, and then he hit those big shots repeatedly. He forced them at the end to try and bring Indiana back into it, but going into that, he was 3 of 4 from 3, and they were all good shots, all looked good, and all should have gone down. And that's exactly what Indiana's been missing, a guy who can defend and hit threes. Like, that's all they need, is a guy who can play some defense and knock down threes. And Anthony Leal can be that guy if he plays like he did tonight.
Well, coming up, as we continue this breakdown of this disappointing loss in double overtime to Wisconsin, we'll point out today's meaningful moments you might have missed. Then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important stats and notes from the game. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
Hi, this is Jawan Morgan. What's the only thing better than getting IU's first triple-double in 47 years? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jerod, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsone. I'm here with Jerod Morris and Ryan Phillips, and we're breaking down Indiana's loss to Wisconsin. A disappointing loss in double overtime, and it's now time for the meaningful moment that you might have missed. And, I'm going to point out to just a couple things that I'm pretty sure most of our fans kind of picked up on, but just want to talk about it again, is Indiana changed the way they were covering some ball screens and some cuts. They were doing a lot of switching, and sometimes it got Indiana into mismatches, but boy, did the guards fight really hard when they were battling in the post. And I thought defensively, again, the frustration for me as a coach is Indiana wasted another solid defensive effort. That's a talented Wisconsin team, and we really made it tough on them. They had to make shots again, and they weren't just making crazy shots. They're good players, and they made their shots, but we were there defensively for the most part. I thought our defense was good, and they're calling it hearing blue a lot late in the ball in the shot clock. That's their blue where they're going to switch. And I thought our perimeters did a pretty nice job guarding their perimeters, or our post players on their perimeters when they did switch off. I thought it was an interesting way to guard the flex and to guard that swing offense stuff that they were running. You guys,
Coach,
what's your thoughts about go ahead.
I was just going to say, do you think they went to that full switch defense tonight just because Wisconsin has so many shooters? and they didn't want to get a hedge in reverse.
Yes, I said something on the last show, or was saying that tonight's a guard your own guy, because you got to be out there on the catch, because if you're not out on the catch on the 3-point line, the ball's going to go in. Like David said, hit that one. He wasn't even squared up. Al was there, but Rob missed one earlier where he was off a little bit, and that 1-3 late that Trayce hit, he was late on the catch, and Trayce just hit it. And the reason you switch is to maintain that integrity there and not get screened, not get caught up in a curl, not get caught up in a back screen helping. And so I think that's why they did it, and I thought it was really effective.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was for the most part. You didn't see a lot of open guys. I mean, they made some shots, some defended shots. Trayce especially made some defended shots, but guys were in good position all night for the most part. Wisconsin's just a good team and made some shots. I mean, and Indiana did the same thing on the other end. I will say I think Indiana made some more open looks tonight. I mean, Leal did that, obviously. He was wide open on most of his looks. And Jerome Hunter knocked down 2 threes as well, where he was wide open. Rob Findessy got one where he was wide open. You saw that graph this week that Indiana takes a lot of open shots. It just doesn't make them. I mean, that was a really interesting chart to show that this offense does create open looks. They just don't hit them. And I thought they were better tonight. They shot 38% from 3, but a couple of those were desperation late, trying to make a comeback in overtime. I had no complaints with the shots they took. They were 2 of 8 in overtime from 3.
I thought early they took some bad shots. First 10 minutes of the game, quick ones,
yeah.
Maybe contested ones. But then again, that chart was pretty interesting. The other thing I'd like to get your guys' opinion on too is I thought the energy was really good for the team. You know, I know that the expectations are high, and I think they're high for a reason and need to be, and I get that. But these guys are really seeming to try to fight really hard. You saw Trey Galloway dancing and being excited late in the game, and his minutes were being taken away. Maybe taken away by his buddy, so he didn't mind. But that's good to see. If we're going to make anything out of this season, if we're going to get better, closer to those expectations, we can't have divisions within. You had Armand Franklin really cheering on the sidelines. And then my favorite, and I'll clean it up, is, and it didn't happen, so it's kind of disappointing, but in one of the late overtimes, Indiana had a 2-point lead, and Anthony Leal caught on tape going just one blanking stop and was really excited about trying to go out. And then the kid just hit a really great Trayce hit that shot to tie it up at 11.1 seconds. But to me, that is good to see, because – you know, if you're going to overcome these, and we've lost 2 overtime games, and the talk is cheap, again, we don't want to be that team that loses these games. We want to be the team that wins these games. Well, you got to start doing it. There are no moral victories. You play to win the game, and Indiana didn't win the game. But this team seems tight and connected, and it'll maximize its talent. I have more issue with the fact that I thought, again, this year I misjudged the talent. I'm not sure the talent's right there. That ultimately is Archie Miller's issue in my book, more than it's the 4-year players. I don't think I can expect Al to do too much more than what he did, or Rob. And that's been disappointing. But I was really happy with the energy today from the team in a tough situation, especially when they got down 10 or 11 early. It could have gone south in a hurry.
It looked like it was headed for a blowout. Yeah.
Yes. The thing is, there's a gulf right now between standards and expectations. You know, the standard of what Indiana should be at all times, but especially in year 4 of a coach, is one thing, where we should be able to come into a game at Wisconsin, expect to compete, and be disappointed when we lose. The expectation, fair for this team at this particular moment with Armand Franklin out, and given the history in the Kohl Center, is that we weren't going to play very well. And so you come out of a game like that, and you're really impressed with the mentality, how much they fought, the energy, all the things that they did. That's just where the program is right now. It's not where the program should be, but it's where the program is. But I think it's fair to point that out, Coach, because I think one of the things that is kind of keeping this team together and that we can count on moving forward is there does seem to be a togetherness about them. The culture that we've been hoping to see that we didn't really see the first 3 years, we are seeing some of that with the toughness and the grit, and they keep fighting and they keep coming back. And so that's all good to see. That lays a foundation that you need, but at some point you've got to start layering the other stuff on top of it. That said, the moment that I wanted to point out tonight is about Trayce Jackson-Davis, who, you talk about energy. When Indiana was at their best tonight, Trayce Jackson-Davis was leading with energy. And I thought it really hurt in the last overtime. He just didn't have much. And, he played 49 minutes. Those are 49 hard minutes. These guys aren't robots. I get it. Yeah. But they needed to find a way to get something more from him, at the end of the game. And when you're second in the Ken Palm Player of the Year rankings, and you're the guy that this team is built around, you got to dig deep and find a way to give more. I thought him only having 16 shots, he should have had more shots playing 49 minutes. There were times he needed to get the ball. But one of the things I thought he did so well tonight, maybe the best I've ever seen, was pass. His passing tonight was phenomenal. Yep. There was a pass in the first half where he, has the ball around the elbow, spins, fakes a pass he was going to throw the pass to the guy in the corner and kind of faked it. And at the last second, the guy jumped, he passes it to the guy on the wing. I think it was to Al Durham, who made a 3-pointer. You saw him several times drive baseline or be on one block and dump it down to Jerome Hunter for a dunk. His offensive awareness and passing is a lot better. I know that we all wanted him to, be able to shoot and extend his range out and do some of that, use his right hand. And that stuff hasn't come, which limits him offensively. But his passing is one of the things that was good last year. I think it's gotten a lot better. And I thought tonight it was really, really important because there were times when Wisconsin was putting a lot of attention on him, but there were guys that were free and open, and he was recognizing it. Now, the bad turnover out at the top of the key, that wasn't a very good pass, but when you've got him handling the ball out there, he's going to make some mistakes out there. But when you've got him on the block, on the move, or kind of in his spots where he's comfortable, he's become a really good passer. And that's important. And if Indiana can start making some shots, now you really maximize the value of that passing. So I was really impressed with that from him tonight.
Yeah, 4 assists. I mean, and he had other passes that didn't turn into assists that were really good too. And I agree with you on that. I think that Trayce is becoming a very well-rounded player without having that jumper. And he's playing better defensively this year. He's not leaving his assignments enough to hunt blocks and leaving guys open. And I think also he's doing really well out on the perimeter as a screen guy, screen and roll guy, making himself available. And the threat of him is opening things up for other guys. And that's why you're seeing more guard drives this year, because they're not, they know they can't rotate a perimeter player onto him if his guy gets sucked into a screen and roll situation at the top. So I agree. I thought he played very well. The fact that I'm looking at our stats and he had the 1 offensive rebound tonight too, you're just like, oh God, only 1. But that's Wisconsin. They do not give up offensive rebounds. And, I just thought, I agree. I think he was very good. I thought he led tonight. And I thought a couple of the guys led. Yeah. And that was heartening to see. Now, you turn this performance in against a different team, you probably win. I mean, let's be real. But you've got to be able to beat the teams at the top of the conference if you want to hang your hat on something. Doing this against Penn State or Illinois or against Rutgers or something like that doesn't get you excited. Well,
that's the thing. The performance we turned against Penn State probably loses to those teams in the Big Ten.
Yeah, of course.
So it goes both ways.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. Is that like you can say this was a great performance from all these guys and they deserve to win, but they didn't. And so you're right, finishing and everything. And look, I'm sympathetic to those guys. They didn't prepare to play 2 overtimes. And playing 49 minutes. Jackson-Davis played 49, Finney played 48, and Durham played 49. You could see it in their faces. They were gassed at the end. And
I know, but Trayce played 47 and he made all those shots. So I mean, these are the things that we've got to stop talking about.
Well, I'm not done.
Sorry, I'm frustrated that we're still having these conversations.
No, what I was going to say is I feel for those guys because they were exhausted, but I was going to echo what you said, that in big moments you've got to change that. You got to get over it. Like you can be tired, your shoulders can be slumped, but you know what? As soon as that ball comes your direction, you got to be looking to score. You can't just kind of, I'm not feeling good, I'm going to hand it off. You've got to step up to the moment. If you're an All-American, play like an All-American for every minute you're on the floor, and that was my point. And I agree with you completely that sometimes you've got to rise above it. Sometimes you'll have an ankle pain or you'll have a knee pain or something, and you've got to step up beyond it and fight through it. And that goes the same way with fatigue. You've got to fight through it some nights. And this was one of those nights where they needed to, because this is a big win if you get it. Changes the momentum of the season.
I'm not sure that fatigue lost the game. What lost the game is that you had a chance to get it back to 2. Or when Hunter got fouled and they didn't call it and a layup, and then both guys were kind of down on the ground and they pushed it out and got that fast break 3 to go up. Did that put them up 4 or did that put them up 7?
4.
But that sequence went okay. So it was a 1-point game. Indiana could have taken the lead. That was a mental dagger, and I know that sounds like an excuse, but that was hard to overcome because now it's a 2-possession game.
It's hard to come back against a team that good.
Yeah, and that sequence, and that's where You're not trying to find excuses, but that's where the game needs to be won, where TJD goes in to dunk that last play instead of trying to finesse that last play. Yes, he might have gotten fouled, but if he goes into dunk, it's an easier foul to call if you get hit. So that's where you take care of your opportunities in the first half. If you're down 29-26, you win the game. If you hit one more free throw, you hit the game. So the team that lost the game was Indiana, not the officials. The team that lost was Indiana. But I am still enjoying this team. I know the narrative of the 4-year expectations, and I get that. But this league is just unbelievably tough. I mean, Maryland goes in and beats them, right, and then gets beat by us, and then goes and gets beat by 20 against Iowa. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to some of this stuff. Northwestern's beating Illinois by 8 right now. I know we play to win the game, but we lost an opportunity tonight. We got to pick one up somewhere, and this kind of play puts us in better position to pick up a game or two. And that might just be the coach, next game. We just got to go the next game. Let's build on what we have here, and let's try to get one on the road against a good team that'll put us in position to make the tournament and make some noise in the tournament. And whether we should have better guards or we should be better than year 4, that's not stuff that coaches. This is the team we have. If you don't like it, I'll just go somewhere else. And it might have to be the situation, but it's got to be focus on what can help this group of young men get better right now, and it's maybe one possession makes the difference today.
Look, as fans, we have to be able to hold 2 competing thoughts in our head, which is one, how are things in the macro? And it's perfectly fair to be dissatisfied about where things are in the macro. And in the micro, you do have to meet the team and the program where they are. Otherwise, don't watch the games and just come back when things are better. And I appreciate all the people I see in the chat mob who are frustrated and disappointed about a lot of the things that we're talking about, but they're here and they're supporting, and you can still acknowledge that, Al and Rob, they're giving us everything they have, they really are. And it's just not quite enough in some of these moments. I will say
playing hard wasn't an issue tonight.
No.
They played very hard.
I will say this. Obviously, Indiana was missing 2 really important pieces in Armand Franklin and Joey Brunk. And, you look at what Al and Rob did offensively, and you look at the boost that Indiana got from Anthony Leal, given what they've gotten offensively from the guards, they replaced a lot of what you would have gotten from Armand. Not to say that he wouldn't have been a huge help, because he obviously would have been. But I actually think on a night like tonight, we talked in the offseason about there would be games where having Joey Brunk would kind of win you the game. Man, I really feel like we missed him a lot. It's not to make an excuse at all. It's just you kind of think about that hypothetically. This is the game we were talking about, where if you could have gotten Trayce a little bit of a break and he has more energy, you could, maybe you can deal with the foul trouble in the first half better. You don't have to play Jordan Geronimo some of those minutes. That's where he really would have paid huge dividends. And so, he's not here.
Nothing else.
Enough big man depth, but just going back to some of those conversations from the offseason, this is a game where it is so clear just watching it where Joey Brunk would have fit in and been a huge, huge help. So, get well soon, Joey, because you are gone but not forgotten at all.
Hey, let's
for
look
nothing
at
else, just 5 minutes.
A few stats for tonight and go inside some numbers, and that'll lead us to some other things. I'm going to start off on the positive. We took some threes late to try to catch up, and still with that, it was 38% from 3. I think a lot of us would be very happy if we shot that on a regular basis. And for me, the only problem with threes is the right people taking them. We had a couple people who came in games and took threes too soon in the shot clock for my liking as a coach. And to me, that's got to be communicated. I don't care if you're wide open. If you're the 9th guy in the rotation, you got to move the ball and get it. I'm talking about Geronimo's 3 and Lander had a 3. We still shot 38% with that. So that came along a little bit. Also 48%. We'd been missing some at the rim, and I thought we missed some at the rim. So overall, the ability to put the ball in the basket was an impressive stat for me tonight, and again kept Indiana in the ballgame.
The other really important number, Coach, is that Wisconsin only had 7 turnovers in the entire game. Right, that's right. Yeah, 7 turnovers in the entire game. Defensively, I was listening to a podcast on the Brink, and John Gassaway was talking about how I think coming into this game in Big Ten play, Indiana had the highest defensive turnover percentage in the league, and it was a really big key of what we'd been doing defensively. And so, to not turn Wisconsin over, and look, that's just how Wisconsin plays, but I feel like if you could get them to 10, get them to 9 or 10 and just a few less shots, that helps you compensate for the total lack of offensive rebounds. And so you're really playing the game with one hand tied behind your back when you're not saving possessions yourself by getting offensive rebounds. And then Wisconsin is only turned the ball over 7 times in a double overtime game. It's hard to win a game like that. And again, Indiana still should have done it, but that's where you see a couple of opportunities. We also talked in the offseason about how some of Archie's best defenses at Dayton were not teams that got a lot of offensive rebounds, and I think especially with the defense that Indiana plays, sacrificing a little bit in terms of offensive rebounds helps you get back, helps you get set. And plus, Indiana's personnel just doesn't lend itself to a lot of offensive rebounds. But my God, it's got to be more than 2.
Yeah, and one was a team rebound that went off one of Wisconsin.
Yeah, look, you had to get more from Trayce Thompson tonight. I know he had the fouls, but you just have. I mean,
I thought he came out.
The formula for this team to win, he did. He came out pretty well at the start, but the formula for this team to win is Trayce and Trayce playing well, and you're just a 4.5 rebound effort from Trayce Thompson. It's going to be almost impossible to absorb that, and it was, because if you get a little bit more from him,
it seemed like in the second half, right when he started to get into the game, boom, foul, 3. Yeah. Then a couple minutes later, boom, 4. It was awful. But hey, you know what? You say that about Trayce Thompson needing to get more, and I agree with you. But Jerome Hunter had 12 points and 7 rebounds.
He was huge.
He was huge. He was fantastic. It was one we said last week was one of his best games as a Hoosier, and it didn't show up in the box score, but just the way he played, this was his best game. 12 points, 7 rebounds. He had an assist. He played with 4 fouls almost the entire time, only 1 turnover. I just think that he was on the floor for all of those overtimes, and they left him in. They didn't rotate Trayce Thompson in the overtime or anything like that. They liked the formula they had, and I think Archie's right. That was the best lineup all night with Leal, Durham, Finney. I mean, those guys tired themselves out, but that was the best lineup. You could, and you didn't want to mess with it because they were keeping it going. And, you
need stuff like that in the heart of Big Ten play, because you're going to have injuries, you're going to have guys struggle. You have to be able to get lifts from your bench.
Yeah.
Think about the recent Indiana teams that were good. What did they have? They had a Will Sheehy off the bench. They had a Max Bielfeldt and an OG Anunoby and guys coming off the bench. They might not do it every night, but you were always getting something. And we've spent so much of the season getting nothing from the bench that, you get this from Leal, you get this from Hunter. If they can,
and technically Finney too.
Yeah,
Finney's a bench guy. I mean,
if you can get
now
1 or 2 guys a night doing this, it's really going to be helpful. So they had to have it tonight. They did it. They almost won because of it. But and
what hurts Indiana in this one is late when you need a guard to get a bucket. They don't have Armaan Franklin, who's the most aggressive guard to go get a bucket and do what Trayce is doing.
To break pressure,
maybe pull it. Yeah, I mean,
to maybe get the ball to TJD, something,
Yeah.
We were able to get locked up
or play off of Trayce. I mean, Al did that some late, and he stepped up big. But I mean, Armaan Franklin changes the complexion of this game because he's also going to guard Trayce, and maybe harass him. I think that all of those things have to be considered when doing the postmortem on this game. I mean, you have to consider the officiating. You have to consider those things. I'm not saying it's the reason they lost, but I'm saying that, you have to take all of those things into account because they exist. I mean, I know you could do the mentality, well, he's not here, so we're not even going to think about him. No, you got to think about him because they're a different team with Armaan Franklin.
Here's a stat that I'll share with you guys that's frustrating as a coach when you should have won a game. When you look at the first 10 possessions of the game, Indiana only scored on 2 of them. Yep. The 2 they scored, the ball got entered into the post. They started off turnover. Finney, bad shot. Galloway, some whirlish dervish shot at the rim that had no chance of going in.
And he still should have made it.
And then they had 2 scores, and then they had Durham turnover, Galloway turnover, offensive foul turnover, Durham turnover. 4 straight turnovers. So Indiana has 13 turnovers in the game. They had 6 in the first 8 minutes. Yeah. And the score was 11-9. So, again, if you want to maximize your talent, and this goes back to Jerod that we need to be better in year 4 where I agree with you, is like if you want to maximize your talent, the talent we have should not have 6 turnovers in 8 minutes. It might not be the greatest talent. It might not be Big Ten championship talent, but you had 6 turnovers to start the game. Script some plays. Talk to him a little bit. I saw Archie say, what were you thinking on the first play? Rob was just passive and just kind of the ball to the other team. that was not good. And then you look and you lose in overtime. You score on one more possession there and you win the game. And you have 5 turnovers. They had 19 assists. So, yeah, there's a lot of positives here. But, gentlemen, come out ready to play. Guards, come out ready to play. Coach, get your team ready to play.
That hasn't been an issue this year. What's been the issue is they play well in the first burst, and then by about the 7-minute mark or 6-minute mark, they level off for a few minutes and struggle, and then they sort of rebound towards the end of the first half and then play better in the second half. Like, that's been the pattern. Last year it was they didn't start well at all, made a comeback, tailed off towards the end of the first half, and then came out after Archie yelled at them at halftime and caught up. And but yeah, I mean, and, you know, there's little things where if you look at the game at the end of the game and it's tied at the end of overtime and you're thinking, well, where do we lose points?
That's why you coach to perfection, Ryan. That's every possession matters. And you know you're going to make mistakes. But you try as a coach to limit them, and this program's not limiting them enough right now.
And that's why here's a mental mistake. End of the first half, Indiana plays good defense, gets a rebound. Al Durham is the guard on the floor, brings it up slowly. He gets the rebound with like 12 seconds left. Walks the ball up the floor, stands at half court, dribbling up and down, and then realizes, oh, there's only 3 seconds on the clock, and runs into a crowd. And it's like, and tries to fire something up. And it's like, you're a senior captain. Check the clock. Like, how are you not checking the clock at that point? He walked it across half court, and I'm screaming at my television. And, you know, it's okay to walk it up if you're going to walk it up and then go or something like that. But he walked it up and stopped. And it's like, how do you not recognize the clock in that situation as a senior guard? Like it blew my mind.
You got to maximize your opportunity.
It's also not putting Al in a position to succeed.
Correct.
I agree.
He's a senior. Al needs to be coming off screens, spotting up, or being able to attack a closeout. Him initiating offense in late game situations is not what we should be doing.
Agreed, but that was the situation we were in. You know, and if you're Al in that situation, you got to step up to the moment. We're talking about Trayce not stepping up to the moment. You're Al. You're a senior. You got to step up to that moment. You got the ball. It's in your hands.
All right.
Getting cut off.
You're getting cut off. Coming up on the Assembly Call, we will hand out our game balls and hit some other lingering storylines. Look ahead to Indiana's next opponent and have our last call. That's all next here on the Assembly Call. Stick with us.
This is Jordan Halls, and I never miss a shot or an episode of the Assembly Call.
We miss you, Jordy, on nights like this where we can depend on you being that IU guard. But you're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for the free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 7,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. You can also text IU to 66866 to subscribe to the newsletter. That's IU to 66866. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Jerod Morris and Ryan Phillips, and we're breaking down Indiana's loss on the road at the Kohl Center to Wisconsin in double overtime. And it's now time for game balls. Jerod, we'll throw it to you first. Who gets your game ball for tonight's performance?
Yeah, look, it'll be fun talking about some other guys in the Mike Roberts Real Hustle Award segment, but Trayce Jackson-Davis gets the game ball. And, you know, what I want to point out, the thing that I love most about being a college sports fan is watching guys develop, watching how they are as freshmen and the progression they make as sophomores and watching them go through it. And last year, Trayce was a guy who, you know, he was the most important player on the team, but there were some games, especially road games, where he would struggle early and just not show up. You know, and one of the biggest improvements he's made is his consistency and the mentality that he's bringing on a night in, night out basis. And I thought for some stretches tonight, his energy and his confidence and, you know, it was really leading Indiana, and it was huge. And I thought at the end of the game, he allowed fatigue to get in his own head a little bit. You know, his body language changed and he got tired. And look, he was tired. You know, he played a lot of minutes. But I think the progression, you know, if he's going to be around next year, and who knows, you know, he'll probably be gone. But if he's around next year, I think this is a game where you see a different guy in overtime. You know, because that's the thing, when you get a little bit older, you find that extra source of energy. And even if you can't find the extra source of energy, you realize that your body language as the leader really matters. And so that was lacking tonight. But I think as a sophomore who has already shown so much growth in that area, he'll get better at that. But he was the best player. He made some really good plays. I think if he gets 20 shots, Indiana wins this game. That's an indictment of the guards. It's an indictment of the coaches and, his own inability to just not create some extra shots with offensive rebounds. But in a double overtime game, he needs to get 20 shots. All that said, he was still the best player. He was just great for long stretches of the game. His passing was great, and so he gets the game ball.
Ryan?
Yeah, I got to agree. Trayce, 23 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks in 49 minutes. He was only -2. That all came late. He was plus for most of the game. I got to give it to him. This is a guy who gives his heart to Indiana. And I know sometimes he starts off soft and he tries to go around guys instead of going through them. And maybe he doesn't have the confidence to just go up and over a guy like Kofi Coburn and guys like that sometimes to start games. But he exploded at times tonight and was fantastic. I agree. Got to take more shots. You got to feed that guy more. But I also like the fact that at times tonight he was unselfish. I think in the overtime and maybe late in the game, he's got to be selfish when he's got a one-on-one with a guy like Reavers and just go at him. And I know that he went at him a couple times and didn't get calls. And I'm sure that put him in a position where he said, all right, I'm going to see if we can move the ball a little bit. Because there was one where he went up, his arm got raked. They didn't even look at a call for him. And, so I'm sure that discouraged him a little bit from just going one-on-one and maybe going over Reavers. But yeah, he was the best player on the floor tonight, either team, I think. I think you can make an argument for Trayce, but I think that Trayce turned it on late, or Trayce was.
He was the best closer.
Yeah, and he stepped up when he needed to. So you give him that. You tip your hat to him. But
Jordan Taylor, Bronson Koenig, Trayce, they've always got a dude that makes plays at the end of games.
That was the biggest difference. If you want to talk about the biggest difference between the two teams, was they had a closer. And Armand Franklin lately for Indiana has maybe filled in that role alongside Trayce Jackson-Davis as a closer. But Trayce, and everybody said, okay, 5 minutes left. It's going to be the Trayce show.
You knew who was going to get the ball.
And it was.
It's a mentality.
They even played good defense, too, on him on a few of those, and he just hit step backs. It's
obviously, I think
gap.
TJD gets the award. Great effort overall. But there was a time late in the game where he caught one right below the free throw line on Reavers and had a gap to spin and go, and he threw it back out and chased into a ball screen. I thought he needed to be aggressive there.
Agreed.
And that's
I texted you at that point.
Yeah, and again, there's no excuse. Fatigue. If you're the stud, go. I'd rather a stud go and take a bad shot and miss than being passive. He was passive a few times. He let that fatigue get to him, but I don't want to take away from his great effort. But when you lose a game, everyone is going to get it in film. Whether you overall, this was a little more positive effort tonight, but everyone's going to get it. Even your star, because even your star can do some good things. Let's go to the Mike Roberts Real Hustle Award. Ryan, who do you think gets that for you?
I see two candidates here, Jerome Hunter and Anthony Leal, for how they played and stepped up. Stepped up big time on the road at Wisconsin and gave performances that I don't think people expected. I'm giving it to Anthony Leal, though, because those 3-point shots were huge. His hustle on defense was fantastic. You're grading on a curve, of course, too, because he's a true freshman in his first road game at Wisconsin, against a top 8 team, and he played out of his mind. And I thought he was fantastic, and he was exactly what Indiana needed him to be the entire time.
Jerod?
Yeah, it's Leal. He played 35 minutes. He was the one guy that was a positive plus-minus for Indiana at +5, and that totally matched the eye test. He was just – Trey Galloway is going to have his games. This was a much better matchup for Leal than it was for Galloway. Yep. I think that's the important thing to remember with freshmen. They're not often consistent, especially guys that were ranked where they are, but they're going to pop up and they're going to have games. This was a really good matchup because the guys Leal was being asked to guard defensively, he could match up with them athletically, and he was able to find some open spots, make some shots. He was terrific. And if he can become a confident 3-point shooter that you can count on to make 1 or 2, coming off the bench in some games, that's really big. So, that is definitely one of the biggest developments of these last couple games is seeing him just get more confident. You can see it on the court. He went from a guy a few weeks ago that was hot potatoing the basketball to, now he's, taking a heat check 3 at Wisconsin.
Huge deal that he shot that first one. He got a good look instead of hot potato, because I was expecting that to be a pass, and he stepped into it, and he nailed it. Looked perfect.
it gives Indiana
he plays hard and he plays tough.
Yep.
You got Hunter and Leal now that gives that option when you come off a ball screen with TJD and he rolls. You can now toss it back to the weak side because a lot of teams cover the tag from the weak side. So if the ball screen's going from the right to the left, the defense is going to come off that wing, and you saw Indiana take advantage of that with some jump skips back. Leal, his first shot was a jump skip back, and they ran it for him a couple times. They ran some for Hunter. That stretches the floor and will increase Indiana's offense. I agree with you guys on Leal. More than his shots going in, how physical he was in the post and chucking cutters, and his understanding of positioning defensively. He doesn't get lost. Very important, especially for a guy like Archie Miller, a defensive guy like me. You got to be in the right spots. You can't mess up. And he also understands what to do offensively. He's telling people where to go, and he's the first year in the program. That's a winner to me. If he gets beat defensively or offensively, it's just because right now he's physically not at the speed of the college game, and that'll come with physical conditioning and experience. But what an excellent performance by Anthony Leal tonight. Now you got Galloway who can do some things and is gaining some. You got Leal. You're expanding that depth. That's good for Indiana. Any thoughts? Go ahead, Jerod.
Galloway was just, I feel like this was just not a good matchup for Galloway.
No.
Some of the stuff he likes to do driving in, Wisconsin's too disciplined for him to get away with some of that stuff. And, so he's going to have better days, and he's going to have really important games. This wasn't one of them, but it sure was great to see one of his freshman teammates step up, pick up that slack.
Now, that brings up our game on Sunday against Nebraska, and I'm not big in must-wins because you have a full schedule and things can change all the while, but it is a pretty important win. You want to get back even in the Big Ten. It is the worst team in the Big Ten, but it is on the road, and they present to me what little I know of them and watch is that 5-out spread, drive, back cut, shoot a lot of threes, get out in transition. Penn State, Northwestern to some extent, that has caused Indiana problems, and it'll be interesting to see what the defensive scheme is, but you got a guy like Leal. Now maybe you play Galloway and Leal together. I'm a little leery of playing too many freshmen together after that 12-0 run today, but it's a game Sunday that's going to be really important because, to make the tournament, which is, I know, below our expectations, but right now I want to make the tournament. I think you got to get 10 Big Ten wins, and we got to get wins like this in order to have a chance to go to the tournament.
This is a scary game.
Yeah,
it's a scary game for the reason you just said,
chance.
because of the style Nebraska plays, because that can give Indiana problems, even against personnel that's not great. You just had a double overtime win, and I'll tell you, they wanted this one tonight. Like, you could see it. You saw Archie kick that chair over at the end of the game when he called off the dogs and didn't have them foul. But Indiana did not lose this game because they weren't ready to play, because they weren't playing hard, all those things. That was there. It's the execution and the basketball stuff that cost them in the end, and obviously the officiating too. But Coach, that worries me a little bit about this game at Nebraska because they're not going home. They're traveling out for 5 days. They left. They're in Wisconsin. Now, I don't know where they're going to go tonight, but then they're going to Nebraska. It's got let down written all over it. And so I think if Indiana doesn't, and if they come out and take care of business, they don't need to blow Nebraska away, but just get a good solid victory where they're in control. It's going to tell us a lot about where this team is mentally and their maturity. But there's also, I think, a risk for a kind of a letdown performance, and they've got to do whatever it takes to guard against that. Because sometimes you see when a team's, one of your top players goes out, like that first game, everybody rallies and there's energy and you're playing well. But then sometimes if you lose that game, now it's like, God, we played so well and we still lost, and the next time you don't have that
maybe
same
it's
energy.
Good to be on the road where you're together.
Maybe so.
Together and you can do some things together and keep that energy of that togetherness that we've kind of talked about. That has been a plus. You can focus only on basketball. You're not worried about there's no class right now, but you're not worried about that or family or who's showing up at whose apartment or all those kinds of things. That maybe that's enough to carry Indiana, but Sunday is a very important game. So you're listening.
I'd rather be playing Nebraska than anybody else after tonight's loss. You know what I mean? So I don't want to make it sound too bad, but it just
Lou Holtz.
Yeah, but it is on the road, and so it's just something to guard against.
You are listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Remember to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel to get the perfect gift for the college sports fan in your life, or for your favorite coach on Assembly Call. Use the promo code Assembly20 at checkout to get 20% off your entire order and send your stuff to Delphi. Okay, guys, it's after that shameless plug, it's time for our last call. Ryan, your last call on tonight's loss at Wisconsin.
Yeah, that's a tough loss. It is. And Indiana played very well. And Indiana gave an effort, as I said, that against most teams in the Big Ten, they're taking home a win tonight. But they didn't finish. And that's they had odds stacked against them, and they had, things in the arena conspiring to be stacked against them and all of that stuff. But you got to close out, and you have to close out hard. And it just felt like it ended with a whimper. I get that they were tired, but as we said, sometimes you need to rise above that and push through. And Wisconsin did, and Indiana didn't. And Indiana had a guy at the end Wisconsin had a guy at the end who stepped up and won the game for them, and Indiana didn't. And Indiana had its chances, and if it cleans up those chances, it wins the game, and it didn't. So this is definitely a what-if game. What would have happened if Indiana wins this game? How do we feel about the rest of the season? Going on the road and beating a top 10 Wisconsin team, how do you feel about the rest of the season? Changes the calculus. You're without your best guard, and you win. And here we are at the end, just wondering what if, because they didn't get it done. And Indiana as a program needs to win these games. When they're in this game late, it's like Florida State, the Florida State game from earlier this year. You got to close out these wins, because it's those big time wins that define your program. It's not beating Nebraska on the road. It's beating Wisconsin on the road that changes the perception of your program. And so if you want to be a big time program, you got to win games like this.
Jerod?
Yeah, no, Indiana needed to win this. This was a big missed opportunity, and it's easy to say, oh, well, it was on the road. They're the number 5 team in Ken Palm, so you can feel good about it. And you can take some positives away from it. But 4 of Indiana's next 8 games are against top 10 teams. You know what I mean? So it's like, at what point do we just say, well, we got to win this, And look, chances are all 4 of those games aren't going to be this close down the stretch. So you got to take these opportunities when you can get them on the road in the Big Ten, and Indiana did not seize that. And so, you look at the way the Big Ten season has started, and Indiana's kind of right around that 20 to 25 mark. At least if you look in Ken Palm, and then if you look at the human polls, they're a little bit further down, but they're somewhere between the 20th to 30th best team in the country. And so they opened Big Ten play against, number 8 and number 5, road games against Illinois and Wisconsin. And then you also had 3 games at home against Northwestern, Penn State, and Maryland, teams in the 40s and 50s. So it was this interesting 5-game set where you're facing 3 games where you're really supposed to win, and you should win, and then 2 games where you're really not supposed to win, but can you pick one up? And so what does Indiana do? And I think heading into this, we all would have felt like, all right, 3-2 is kind of treading water. Right? You kind of do what you need to do. You win those 3 home games, you lose the 2 road games, fine. Maybe, if this was going to be a team that's competing for a Big Ten title, then maybe you go 4-1 here and you pick off one of those games against Illinois and Wisconsin. Well, that didn't happen, and you lost 1 at home. So now you're sitting here at 2-3, and, that's not a great position to be in against Penn State and Maryland. And that's what makes this loss tonight hurt even more. Because, to answer your question, Ryan, you'd be feeling really good at 3-2 if one of the wins is over Wisconsin. But it wasn't, and now Indiana has work to do. And that game against Northwestern that you lost, that you have to make up for, you had a chance to do it tonight, you didn't. And, the schedule is not going to get, it's obviously going to get easier than playing at Wisconsin, because that's probably the toughest game on your entire schedule. But it's a gauntlet. And when these opportunities present themselves, you got to take advantage of it. And so I feel like this is one of those games when, we're sitting here talking in March. This is going to be one of those games. I don't know if it's going to cost Indiana a tournament spot, or who knows. We don't know where Indiana's going to be at that point. But I feel like wherever it is, we're going to look back at this one and be like, man, we should have taken care of business there. So, I like some of the things. If what we saw from Jerome Hunter and Anthony Leal tonight continues on, if that's a harbinger of things to come, maybe not every game, but in half of the games the rest of the way, that's really big for Indiana. And if what we're seeing now from Al Durham and Rob Finney these last few games, which is not elite, it's probably not even above average Big Ten guard play, but if you can get this more often, that's going to win more games, because you're going to get above average post play from Trayce Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson. So there are some things to take away from this. This is not, it's not all great because we came close, and it's not all bad because we lost. It's a total mixed bag tonight. But ultimately, this team is 2-3, and they needed to be in a better position after 5 games, and now they're going to have to go, no matter who's injured, no matter who's tired, no matter who's playing, whatever, they just got to go start winning games. Because what you don't want to be is, the Purdue All-Stars from a couple years ago, where you're the good KenPom team that can't win any games. You just got to win games, and the Big Ten is really good this year. But guess what? This is Indiana. In a good Big Ten, we should be competing near the top of it. At the very least, we should be competing in the middle of it. And so we got to start winning some games to make sure we at least stay there.
You play to win the game. I can't say it and I was from the Assembly Call Twitter feed saying finish. And TJD after Florida State said, I want this team to be different. Talk is cheap. You got to start backing it up. That's the truth. Love these guys. It's a fun team. This team is competing better on the road than they did last year. I think that the program is making strides. The argument, obviously, is it's not making them fast enough, and it's not winning games enough. And that's just an honest truth. You play to win the game. But I'm enjoying talking to you guys after a tough loss a lot more than a 25-point blowout on the road to a top 10 team. I'd rather talk to you after a win, but you play to win the game. And Indiana's got to start winning games. And you can like this guy, you can like this coach, you can dislike this coach, you can think we should be faster, farther. It's about winning. And Indiana needs to do it, and needs to do it against good opponents.
That's it.
We could have started this show 10 years earlier, and we still wouldn't have talked about it. But we still wouldn't have had a post-game show win at the Kohl Center.
That's right.
That's it. We're done. No more questions.
Ryan needs some cereal. So we got to go. We got to have a little butthole in you. Oh, no. Oh, no. I knew it. Golly.
That's the only reason I wanted to come on tonight.
That will do it. That will do it for this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/assemblycall.com. Don't forget to go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to longtime listener Bob Thompson, who produced much of the music you hear on the show, and thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU hopes again with you on Sunday. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you. Did Indiana move up in KenPom?
21st.
Where were they before?
We were right around there. Yeah, we were 21st coming into the game. Do you have a subscription there
still?
Of course.
Okay, because I have your old password, but it doesn't work.
I'll send you the new one.
Okay.
What self-respecting college basketball fan doesn't have a KenPom account?
Come on, man.
Well, I always had yours, so I didn't sign up for a new one.
Yeah, come on. Support Ken. Come on. I'll send it to you.
Thanks. I knew you'd care.
God dang it.
Yeah, that's a disappointing one. Because they had it won a couple times.
They should have won this game. Yep. Okay. I don't. Maybe this is a point that we should have made before, and I don't know, Coach. You may disagree with this, but you're without your best perimeter guy in Armand, and you've played that well. I feel like the coach has to find a way to guide you home in this one, and you can't make some of the mistakes. Like, this is a game.
I thought for most of regulation, he coached really well.
Yeah, but I guess that's what was frustrating at the end. Is that's where in year 4 I would love to feel like, man, Archie brought us home at the end, and instead it's like
he got TJD a shot at the rim. Your all-star a shot at the rim at the end of regulation.
I know.
And he got
it was
fouled.
good at the end of regulation.
And he got fouled. And I'm not sure he diagrammed Rob Finney running the wrong direction to bring a defender to L.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what happened there. He probably talked about it in the post.
And I know I've been an Archie fan, and that's kind of wavering. I haven't said it a lot on the show yet. I've said that to you guys in the chat room, because he's ultimately responsible, and we need wins. And whether I like a guy or not, or think there's making progress, the bottom line is you do have to carry guys to the win. But we don't know what went on in that time. I'm guarantee he didn't have a play for Rob to run. There wasn't going to be a handoff there that late. Because he was talking to L at that point and saying, I could see him saying, if something, and I thought he said, if it's not there, take the drive. Well, he couldn't go anywhere. And that's when he turned, and there was nowhere to go, and there was a defender. So I think that was player error, to be fair.
The only thing I would have done differently is maybe in the overtime. He didn't sub at all in the overtimes, or I think it was like 5 minutes left. So it was like 15 minutes straight of the same guys. And Wisconsin didn't either. But
who would you have put in, though?
I don't know. Like, that was what I was thinking, is maybe steal a minute for somebody here, then steal a minute for somebody else. But the other thing is, it was such an intense, close game. Like, that's the only thing I'm thinking of, like, how you could change it, Maybe when you get up 3 in overtime, you swap somebody, just for a minute.
It's
hard to do that.
Here's what you do. Seriously, he's got to script things somewhat better in the first half with the depth that he has.
Yeah, I think
he's got to find the right time to put Lander in with the right people, and he's really got to find the right time to put Geronimo in. What happened was they got going a little bit, and they were at a point where it was tight, 11-9. He thought, okay, we're in a game. Well, let's put these guys out here now, buy 2 or 3 minutes with them out there now. It backfired. It was a 12-0 run.
And I get – And
right? He was trying to steal minutes there. But I'm at the point now where, Coach, they can't guard, so don't put both of them out there at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Put Geronimo out there with 4 other good guys.
Geronimo, right?
You can still script guys. Maybe at the 4-minute mark, Geronimo comes in for 2 minutes, or maybe at the 11-minute mark, Lander comes in. They've got to do a better job as a coaching staff, in my opinion, of scripting their steal of minutes, because guys need to get – and I don't buy their fatigue thing, because you look at a lot of players, Carr at Minnesota is playing 35, 36 minutes a game. Your better players, you want to play 32, 33 minutes, so don't be tired. Get in shape, right? That's on the players. I agree with Jerod on that. Other players are doing that. But there's no doubt that IU is not fresh and late at games.
And I'm not saying
whatever, so.
And I'm not saying they shouldn't be fresh at any games. I'm saying they obviously aren't.
Right.
So let's work with the situation. Like, they're not fresh playing 37 minutes.
Right.
Okay. Whatever you're doing conditioning wise, maybe you need to up it. I don't know, but they're not fresh playing 37 minutes or 39 minutes. So maybe you need to dial it down to 37, because that's where we're at. I'm thinking about not the overall macro program perspective where, you need to be able to play that many minutes and win games. I'm saying they're not doing it. So maybe you need to dial it back if you want to win games now.
Here's the other question that I have, and I would question Archie and not just criticize him. And I want to, I know I'm pro coach, and you just need to dismiss that. But that's who I am. It's a fraternity. But not only then those young guys come in, those young guys take shots they don't need to be taking. That
Lander
to me
had
is,
3 tonight,
if I'm coaching that
Lander's
team, I'm telling you, listen, I'll get you 2 or 3 minutes, but if you take another shot, you won't play for 3 weeks.
Here's what I'll say about the freshmen right now. Galloway's obviously, he's hit a little bit of a wall. He was better for a while, and then he kind of hit a wall. Leal saw something good happen in the last game, and all of a sudden he's got some confidence. Lander and Geronimo need something good to happen. Like, that's whether it's a weak side dunk. No, I'm agreeing with you. They need to. You're right.
But Geronimo taking a 3 at the 18-second mark of the shot clock, whether he was wide open or not, that's not good productive minutes. You're out there.
No, I agree.
To guard,
He's
rebound
done that multiple times.
Yes, and so that's on the coach. It's a pattern. End the pattern, RG.
Coach, what I'm saying though is these guys are talented. I think at some point, if something good happens, it locks you in. You get confidence. Like if Lander, jukes a guy on a drive and gets a wide open layup, he's all of a sudden going to be more into the game and more focused.
Well, Lander hit a 3 a couple games ago.
I know,
from the corner.
but he didn't really create it. You know what I mean? Like, but Geronimo, it's like one of those things where if he catches an alley-oop and dunks one or something like that, he'll lock in. I'm not saying he'll be great, but you'll see their play get better, because once you're locked in a little, and this, and you've seen it with Leal now tonight, once you're locked in a little, your confidence is up and you focus more.
And we all agree on
about
this.
Making a mistake. You don't think about making a mistake as much.
But it has to be a system where your players gain confidence, and it's not about shots going in or shots being taken.
I agree.
Leal got confidence,
whether it's a big block,
because he went out and executed defensively. And if you play for a defensive coach, that's where it starts. You guys know it. It's communicated. Sure. Go out there and be in position. Go out there. I mean, don't get beat on a flare screen, Geronimo. It's a simple flare cut, rub cut. Don't be. I know it was in the scouting report. Get it done. We've practiced it. Get it done. If you don't get
just
it done,
go get an
you're
offensive rebound.
Yeah,
like
so
3
Leal
minutes
did that.
Of good
Galloway
could lock you in.
Galloway got in by how'd he get in? By an assist, driving and getting the ball to other people. So it's not about shots. You can gain confidence as a player by doing what you're asked to in the other spots of the game. And Leal and Galloway have earned the right to, Leal's earned the right to shoot. Galloway needs to pass. But
and let's just, remember with these freshmen, don't overreact to one game. And Leal,
right.
Galloway had a couple good games, and now the book is out on Galloway, and teams know what he's going to do offensively.
He can't
and
shoot,
Wisconsin,
he's going to drive.
Yeah, and Wisconsin knew he's going to drive and look back to pass, and they took all that away.
And he's not a phenomenal ball handler, so they were right up on him.
Right, yeah, and he can't shoot. And look, Lander was bad tonight. He was bad defensively. His shot selection wasn't good. He wants to make something happen so bad. The kid's a playmaker. Wants to make something happen so bad when he gets in. And tonight he took some ill-advised shots, didn't play well. And I will say that the argument to continue giving him a lot of minutes is a little bit less potent now. Well, it's not gone because the kid has it's not gone because he has talent and you still need to develop him. You cannot bury Lander on the bench. You don't ask a guy to reclassify at that level, bury him on the bench.
I get
for this season and for the future. But what I will say, a few weeks ago when I thought it was totally ridiculous that he wasn't playing more, that's when, Rob and Al were basically giving us nothing. And if the alternative is that, then you got to play the young guy. Well, now you're getting a little bit more from those guys.
Here's something about Lander. I thought Lander's first minute and a half was really good tonight. I even texted you guys in the group. He was in a stance. He was beating cutters to the spot. He was aware defensively. He was running the offense. And then there went to a TV timeout. And then all of a sudden, I thought, okay, is Archie going to stay with him? Archie stayed with him. It's been the chat room said he's got to play through mistakes. He's got to do that. First mistake, I thought I'd heard a buzzer, but it was someone else. I said, okay, Archie's letting him play through mistakes. Then it was the second mistake, the third mistake, and the fourth mistake, and then Geronimo takes a three and then gives up a flare screen, and the next thing you know, Indiana's down 11. I mean, it happened like an inferno. And so Archie let kids play through mistakes.
Should not have those two guys on the court together.
Right,
no. And Galloway was the third. So if you got to think about it, Galloway, who's probably our weakest defender as a starter right now, I think he'll be fine, but right now he's probably our weakest defender as a starter. He has to guard if you're just doing math, he has to guard the third best player on the floor for Wisconsin instead of the fifth in that situation because the other two guys have no idea what they're doing. So it just it downshifts your whole defense.
And that tied into the foul issue when you had, we had 6 fouls at one point, and 5 of them were 2 post players, Jerome and Race. And so there's another thought like, okay, I need to throw Geronimo in there to get some minutes. That's not a bad decision, but it ended up costing. Sometimes you make good decisions and they turn out just not to be in the right flow. And it's
let me ask you guys just a macro question here.
Last question. I got to get out of here.
Last question. The system that we play with the pack line defense, which we know is really hard to learn, and you can see Christian Lander's mind going in circles on the defensive end. You look at the teams that do it well, like Virginia. These are not teams that are getting a whole lot of 5-star guys that are expected to play right away. They're getting old, they're staying old, they're developing guys playing upperclassmen. And I just wonder if it's a really bad match between program and system and player to bring in a reclassifying 5-star player who's going to expect to play and who you really need to play because you don't have a whole lot of other talented guards. But now you play this system where he's really going to struggle to get up to speed. And if we need to be a little bit smarter about how we build rosters, and look, Virginia has never been a team that has gone out and gotten the best talent, but we just saw them win a national championship, so you can do it that way. But you've got to have a match between your system and the talent. And right now, every single year, we're so dependent on freshmen. Romeo, when he was here, Trayce last year, for this team to have hit their ceiling this year, you need a guy like Lander to step up. But we're not playing a system that is friendly to freshmen. So it feels like something's got to give. We can't continue to be this reliant on young people with the way that we build our roster with a system that demands experience.
Yeah, because and so people will tell you that Romeo...
We are where we are, but I'm just talking about for future roster building.
Romeo struggled with the pack line. There's a 5-star player that a lot of times your 5-star players aren't asked to guard in high school. And in AAU, they don't guard
play defense,
either. Yeah, so they don't play defense. So now you're coming in. But here's the other thing. If you're coming in and it's not the pack line, let's say it's a force baseline Chris Beard defense.
You guys enjoy this conversation. I got to get out of here.
Okay, take care, buddy. Thanks. It's the same thing. I think that the whole idea of the pack line being any defensive scheme is hard for kids to come in if they don't have a defensive mindset. So if you're playing a trapping, pressing, read that's going to take an adjustment. If you're playing the pack line, I think that's a narrative that we fall back on, and I get it somewhat. But I think you're absolutely right. The more experience you have, I mean, you look at Wisconsin, the reason they're so good is because they have veterans guys who play defense.
I know.
They're not flashy, right? They're not, Trayce has developed into that. And that's part of the reason, and I get where the frustration is that we're not there fast enough. And my worry is we got how long does it take the next dude if we go that direction? I mean, what we want is something that I think takes a long process anyway. Plus, when the Big Ten's just kicking your butt every night, that's where I'm a little more patient because I know it takes time. In my opinion,
By the way, there's some Virginia slander in the chat, and I'm not going to stand for it from Jen and Kent. I know Virginia they were fortunate along their path to the national championship. But you know what they got that we want? Consistent chances. They were a number 1 seed the year before, and they lost. But you know what? They were a number 1 seed, and
but people don't want Bennett to be their coach because he's boring on offense.
I know, and I'm not. I bring up
it's frustrating, right?
I bring up Virginia just because it's an easy one to talk about. But I don't know. I worry that we're constantly having this push and pull where it's like we're dependent on these young guys. Oh, but guys really struggle in the system until they get older, and it's like, well, then maybe we need to be a little bit smarter about how we match our roster to what we're doing. That's all.
Royce has a good point, and I'm going to point this out in all respect, Royce. Coach, look at Michigan. Beilein left the program in great position. He's just great. Those players who are there playing in that system were really taught well and developed. And there's still some good players left over from Beilein. Really good players left over from Beilein. That's where I don't like to compare. Well, in year 2, this coach did this. In year 4, this coach is doing it.
Different.
Every transfer is different. And so, you could look at that and look at Chris Beard. He's struggling now. He had a great year. He was almost in position to not make the tournament last year if he loses to Texas in the first round. And right now, he hasn't beaten anybody this year. If you're looking from a bracketology, the KenPom numbers keep him in the 5, 6, 7 seed range, but he's really a 10 or 11 right now. And everyone wants him to be the next IU coach.
And
they're not playing well.
Just announced he's transferring.
Okay, so they're losing a player. So, it's whenever you like a program, you see all the millions of warts and none of the sunshine, and you point it out in other places too, and that's just part of being a fan. And if we weren't fans, then you wouldn't be here listening to this show. So
the point about Michigan is a good one. Remember, Mike Davis' second year, we went to the national championship game, and he was being talked about as an NBA coach.
Right.
And I think Juwan Howard's done a great job. I think bringing Phil Martelli in was a stroke of genius by Juwan Howard. He's a great recruiter. But let's see what that program looks like in year 5 and 6. Because just as when Mike Davis took over, you had players who had learned the game under Bob Knight and had developed those fundamentals. Those Michigan players have done that same thing with John Beilein. And, even with Xavier Simpson gone, Livers and all those guys have done that. So I want to be a little patient with Juwan Howard before I anoint him the next great coach in the Big Ten. Because we've seen guys take over for really good coaches and have a few good years running on the other coach's fumes. And he's not totally doing that because Hunter Dickinson is his recruit, and that guy's terrific. So it's not totally that, but I just want to see it long term.
Getting a lot of
you got to give coaches 4, 5, 6 years, both on the bad and the good. If they struggle early on, give them time to build it up, and if they're great early on, can they sustain it? That's why if my tone this season on the show has sounded more harsh than the times when I've been on here, it's because we're in year 4. And to me, that's when you start ramping up the expectations and, let's go. And I think it was very fair to be patient along the way until now. But, we got to be fair with timetables on both sides.
Getting a lot of talk about Illinois and Ohio State. I'm a firm believer. Ohio State, Thad Matta left it in a halfway decent program. He was just not recruiting. And I'm not sure Chris Holtmann, everyone loves Ohio State and thought Ohio State was going to be better than Michigan this year. Michigan's a lot better. Underwood went from a pressing, trapping, get steals in denial defense to more of a pack line. And that made all the difference. And he also has some friends in Chicago that help him get players.
He does what he needs to do.
We can start being in Final Fours immediately. We could put the bags of cash out. I'm telling you, you need talent. Go get bags of cash, and we can start winning if you want to get. It's the same with IU and Purdue. I ask Purdue fans that all the time. Do you want to do it right and win and get to a Sweet 16, or do you want to win a championship and not do it right?
Bags of cash.
That's what I mean. It's sad. It's sad, but that's.
It was a fully loaded Lexus.
Duke is in everyone's bracketology, and they haven't beaten anyone. They're 0-1 in quad 1, 0-1, and they're like 5th seed because everyone loves Duke because they got 5 stars. I'm surprised Kentucky isn't like the number 2 seed in most of these bracketology. They haven't beaten anybody. They haven't. Louisville. Rick Pitino was a pretty heck of a good coach. He just had too many bad, decisions by his assistant. So when Chris Mack comes in, that program's a little better off, in other words. I know some people think that Crean left it in good. I disagree with you. I thought it was shambles, to be honest, from the inside, knowing what I know from the inside. And so, that's where my patience comes from, and I know I'm probably wrong. We're 4-4 in high school. We've lost our fair share after COVID, so I don't know what I'm doing either. We shoot 32% and win a game.
God,
how's that happen?
We should have won this one. Got it really. I hate playing at the Kohl Center. We usually don't get these moments of hope at the Kohl Center. That's the thing. Usually the game's over in the first half.
I mean, that's exactly why. That's the only thing I'm going to go to bed and sleep well tonight, because this is at least enjoyable. I mean, if it was 89-42,
because the bar is low for what's enjoyable.
I know. I get it. 89-42 or something. It'd be like, well, it was over in the first 5 minutes. They dressed a manager and he looked good. I mean, we've had that for a while now, haven't we? Like, what are you talking about after these games? It's the same old stuff. Didn't rebound, had a 8-9 minute scoring drought, and got beat by 19 at the road of Rutgers. So I guess maybe I do have a low bar, but matches my hairline.
Mm-hmm. That's going to be the tagline for the season. Lots of losses, but moments of hope.
Jeez, Pete. We
were ranked 22nd in Ken Palm, but we missed the tournament.
Yeah, wasn't it Purdue 15-16 and like 26th or something last year?
Yeah,
that's going to be us, because everything's going to be tight. Everything's going to be tight, and we're going to lose. And we're actually a halfway decent team, but no.
We're a good team. Like, we are good. Like we're good.
I have more issues, Jerod, with the roster construction. The more these years go on, I have a problem with the roster construction, and then some of the development things. Like, Rob's. I love Rob. He's from up around here, but he's been sadly disappointing. But then Armand has developed. So there's the positive to outweigh that negative. But
I know Al catches a lot of credit, but given where he was recruited and the kind of ability he has. I mean, that guy's given you pretty much everything he has. He's, he is what he is. He's going to make some mistakes, but the fact that we rely so much on a guy as limited as Al is an indictment, not of Al, but of the roster construction. And by the way, ever since I wrote that article about Al, he has come back and done exactly what we need.
Because he reads that. I sent him an email and said, "You got to read what Jerod said, dude. It'll help your game. Come on, I'm a coach. I know good analysis when I see it.
Makes me feel good that every now and then when I go out on a limb for a senior guard, they step up. And but this is what you need from him.
Yeah, Devontae did a great job last year, dude.
Well, every now and then. He's going to make all those mistakes that he makes. But if he can give you 14 to 16 points, that's what this team needs from him. So.
One last thing, I'll let everyone go because I can talk hoops all night long. I love it. Thanks for everyone in the chat room, whether you agree with me, disagree, whatever. It is very healthy for me to be on this show and know a lot of you personally and those that I don't know. So if you just think I'm a horse's rear end, that's good too. But it means a lot. But sometimes it's when you play teams. Like Northwestern's been getting waxed lately. Like they surprised people and beat Michigan State, Ohio State, and IU. We caught them at the wrong time. When are the breaks going to happen to us? When's that ball going to fall in that it's not supposed to and we get one? I mean, come on. We deserve it. We deserve a bowl victory. I'm tired of being Indiana not having good things, all of you guys in the chat room just live for this stuff. And I know it's more for the school and for the guys playing than it is for us fans, but geez, Pete, man.
Ryan Howe said, I would stay just to hear Coach talk without Ryan interrupting.
Ryan, I should hold a one-on-one with Coach Tonsoni. Just open up the chat mob, just sit here and have you guys fire questions at me. Ryan's a great guy. Ryan is a fan of a school that we play, and he came down and talked to me. That again, I hate losing, but I love the Indiana fans, the Assembly Call fans that I run into. They're just really great people. We'll win again. I promise. At some point, I'll drop my bags of cash that I have for my retirement. I'll spend it on basketball. Hey, how's this house coming?
Dude, we close on it tomorrow.
Sweet.
We close tomorrow, and then we move 2 weeks from now, Monday the 18th.
You got everything packed and ready? And That's good.
No, that's why I'm lingering tonight, because I don't know how many shows I'm going to be able to be on over the next couple weeks. So,
how far away is it of a move?
Oh, it's only about 20 minutes.
Okay.
So it's not too
Same
bad.
general area, just other side of town or something, or other side?
Basically, yeah, just up north, just a different kind of like everything in Dallas just keeps spreading out.
Right.
So this is kind of like the new area that's really growing quickly. So
got a guest bedroom?
We do.
Nice.
Anytime you come.
Dude, I need to so bad just come down. I might just knock on your door.
Do it.
I need to go to San Diego. When this quarantine stuff, and I can go out and we can go see something, I just might make the world tour.
Do it.
So,
oh, man.
Anything else happening, dude? It's good to have you on. I miss you.
It's good to be here. It is good to be here. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it tonight, but my wife is amazing, and so she knew that I wasn't expecting very much from this game, and then she saw that Indiana was kind of winning and playing well. So I think she handled everything because for bedtime and all the nighttime stuff, because I think she thought we might win this one. That'd be a fun post-game show to be on. We didn't. She came out. She's like, while we were starting the show, did you do it? I had to give her the thumbs down. So, yes, everybody's asking, can you get pissed drunk after the next bad loss and sleep in the guest room? Yes, come on down. We always have room for assembly call hosts and fans.
I am not joking. When we get the okay to have crowds again, I'm going to invite anyone in the chat mob, anyone who wants to come to Delphi, Indiana. We have a bocce court out back. We'll get, some barbecue going, some adult beverages, whatever. We have a couple bed and breakfast places in town you can rent, Airbnbs, or I'll have my son be the driver down to Lafayette and just have an assembly call, cookout,
awesome.
And bocce ball tournament. I was wanting to have that last summer until all this stuff hit, but you could even camp out back. But that would be a lot of fun. Random draw of who your partner is.
That would be incredible.
Have a little trophy with the assembly call logo on it. T-shirts, assembly call, bocce tournament.
We should get some of those little wood plaques that we got. We can get some extra ones of those and hand those out as
like we could have a small entry fee, like $15. It gets a T-shirt. You could put your favorite IU number on it. So we'd have assembly call bocce tournament 40 and Cheney on the back for you to wear.
Oh man, that'd be great.
Everyone would have their favorite number on, so when you're socializing, you can. That'd be cool.
All right, well, now this has to happen.
Jen's never played bocce ball. Well, Jen, you need to get up here to Indiana.
That's right. Yes, you do.
RC to MC. He's in the chat room. We were trying to do a video, he and I together. I think that's all right. RC Layman, I usually find you on Twitter.
Lisa asked how I could have been so quiet with the kids in the house. Well, my daughter, she stayed up until the end of regulation, and I was very loud before that. I heard her at one point ask my wife, "Why is Daddy yelling?" She was like, "Well, Indiana's playing well."
Something, Jerod? This is my wife loves the fact that you've asked me to be part of this, because ever since I've been part of this, I stopped yelling. I used to yell because I'm taking notes, and then I'm thinking ahead. What would I do here? What am I going to say on the show? Is this a moment, memorable moment? Is this a stat? Then tonight I was tracking how many possessions they scored. 27 out of 26 last possessions, and I don't yell anymore. And she loves it because she doesn't have to shut the basement door.
No, it's a totally different experience. That's why tonight I was just watching the start of the game. I didn't think I was going to be on the show, so I'm just kind of sitting there watching it like the old days, up pacing and cheering and all that stuff. Because during the game when we're tweeting and taking notes and stuff, you can't do all that stuff. So every now and then it's fun to just watch a game like that.
Mrs. Tonsoni, Jen, she's incredible. Someday you got to meet her. I don't know.
Here I come, Mrs. Tonsoni.
Woohoo! Woohoo! Turn your butt cheeks on. Oh boy, how does she put up with me? You've met her, Jerod. She's a saint.
She's great. She's great.
I'll tell you what. I say all those drops here at home too. It's ridiculous.
All right. Have you been recording all this post-show stuff?
Yeah, it's at 1:33. You want me to stop it?
No. Whenever we don't have post-show stuff, I always get emails from people. They're like, "Hey, where was all the post-show stuff? We like that stuff."
It might take a while to upload here at the house, but Oh, well.
That's okay. I thought Ryan's rant went for an hour and a half.
You guys, you two love to talk, and I'm the host. I'm trying to figure out, what's the right way to interrupt and get this thing back. And then you have those time things in the sheet, and I'm trying to follow all of that stuff. And man, all right. So here's my favorite drop for Mrs. Tonsoni, chat mobbers, when she walks downstairs after a show.
What's happening, the hot stuff?
It gets me absolutely nowhere, but it's fun. It gets a little chuckle. Jerod has got me on this soundboard, and I go download movie clips, and then, it doesn't add much to the house.
Luca Garza is not a pimple on Calvert's backside.
Oh, Lord. All right, I'm kicking you out of here, host.
All right.
I got to get some sleep, and
I got to get some rest and go close on a house.
Set you. Good luck on that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone in the chat mob. You mean a lot to us.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. We'll see you guys on Sunday.
All righty. Good night.
Bye, everybody.